Well, hello, everyone. I am really excited to talk with you about digital advertising. A little bit about myself. My background is computer science. I worked as a software manager at Hewlett-Packard for multiple years. And then I started a company tied to financial analytics. And through that, we learned a lot about how to get Google to like us. We were getting 500,000 unique visitors to our website without any advertising at the time. So I learned more about that. Then I started a company here that does digital advertising specifically to help lawyers and dentists to know where are they falling short, but as an independent fiduciary and not an agency trying to sell the work for them. So I know about this. I also am the entrepreneur in residence here, and I teach entrepreneurship at Cal Poly. So the talk you're going to see, you'll see it says Cal Poly Entrepreneurs in the corner. I've done this many times. The key thing you're going to hear is don't guess what your customers want. Know who your ideal customer persona is and only have them see your ad. Because if you don't target your ideal customer, you won't do what we emphasize in entrepreneurship over and over again. You need to focus on an early adopter. They have 3 attributes. 1, they have a problem. 2, they know they have a problem. And most importantly, 3, they are actively seeking a solution for the problem. Once you incorporate that thought process, your ad should immediately resonate with the early adopter. Wow, where have you been? So many people who run digital ads are trying to convince people of a problem. You'll never do it. You don't have the advertising budget. What you have to do is figure out if you can be 100% solution to a small number of people, do it. And then start looking for adjacencies. If you're a 70% solution to a large number of people, you got nothing. Because realize, when I'm going to teach you on Facebook ads, for example, 1% click rate on a Facebook ad is a good number. What you don't want to do is spray and pray of just everyone on Facebook. You're going to learn how to go very, very, it's scary how very, very detailed you can go. So what I would like to do, well, the other thing, I'll go to the top, ask questions throughout. It's a lot more fun for me to interact with you. I'm an extrovert. I like the interactions. I've taught a lot, but it's just more fun because each of you will feel like I got something out what I needed for me, as opposed to Dan talked to me for an hour. So let's go back to the top one. I'll start with the people here at the Hothouse, and then I'll talk to the people that are online with Zoom. Anyone want to highlight what they wish, the one thing they can learn more about today? So I can really emphasize that when I talk. Yes?
Just a fast, quick workflow of setting up a Google ad.
Okay, I can talk about that one. I'll go into, I know you're doing Google ads also. Google is a real pain. I'm going to focus on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram for a reason. Other topics that you really want me to hit. I can easily hit Google. I've done a lot of that.
I'm curious about learning more about LinkedIn.
Okay.
You said Instagram.
Yes. So if they're both owned by Meta, so when you set up an ad, there's a little button. Do you want it to be just Instagram, just Facebook, or both? And Meta always defaults to both because they want to double the money from you. Okay, Madison, if we can just open it up for any topics that people who are online wish I would hit, so I can know that ahead of time. It really lets me know where to prioritize my slides.
No worries. We haven't gotten anything yet in the chat. So online folks, feel free to type in the chat or Q&A, or just go ahead and raise your hand.
You can let me know after my first slide.
Absolutely.
We'll do that. Okay, so you'll get all the slides. You'll see in my slides also, I have a lot of hyperlinks where you can go deeper. Because you have to have the initiative to go deeper. YouTube and Google are your friends. I've done some vetting, so when I give you the YouTube links, they're actually the people who know what they're doing. There's so much snake oil out there.
It's ChatGPT is your friend now.
Well,
It's much faster to get your answer that way.
yes. Just realize the ChatGPT, I don't know if it's initial version, but the one we all played with only had data till like 2021.
Right, so it's a little dated.
But it's still amazing. I read ChatGPT passed the bar exam with 90% correct. And then the lawyer who answered that, he said, that just shows you the bar exam is for people who can memorize, but don't actually think like a lawyer. Which is interesting.
It'll force a lot of things.
Okay, let's go on to the first slide. Oh, that's me. I have this in my hand. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of A/B testing. So what A/B testing is, when you do ads, you never test one. You're always in competition between one idea and the other. Whichever one does better dethrones the old champion, and now you have a new challenge. If everyone in this class was using Amazon right now, you're going to see different things on your screen. Amazon in real time is looking, if I change the font, can I pick up 0.5% click rate? If I change the color, if I change the size of the image, they're doing it constantly. Because if every interaction is 0.1%, that compounds. So I'm going to give you my example on how to do digital ads as if you're baking a cake. So step one, this is the most important step. I want to know your early adopter, but look how much detail. These are the people that you think, if I can talk to these people, they'll say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been looking for this solution until today, I couldn't find it. That's what you want to see. And you have to believe you have a solution that people will say that to if you can just talk to the right ones. So a lot, when I teach the Cal Poly students, they always want the early adopters to be their friends. The good thing about digital ads is they don't know you. They hate ads. So you really, when you start getting traction with digital ads, you got something. Because you're starting from a position of weakness. That's the way it works. But that's how you know it's credible. That's what investors love to see. Is my initial ad campaign, I did really bad, but I kept tweaking. Look where I am now. Investors love it when you can show that. So you can do internet searches on personas, but look, in this example, the team didn't know, is it a male or female? They didn't know the age. They didn't know the demographics. So what you start doing is you put those assumptions, and that for teams here in the Hothouse in the summer, we have 7 teams out of Cal Poly. We give each of them $10,000 cash, and for all winter, all summer, they work to pitch to investors at the end. It's like a Shark Tank boot camp here, right where we're standing. They keep changing this as they run their ads because they realize, oh, it's not Maggie 52, it's actually Jane 30. But you're learning. You've got to learn because everything you have right now is opinion. We've got to shift from opinions to facts, and it's hard. So you start with a control and a variation, and it might be when you run. Well, both of them are really low, but this one has twice as many clicks as this. Guess what? Maggie's your new control, and you got a new challenger. And you're constantly, who's your control and who's your new challenger? So that's step one. Ingredient one. The next thing, when you're doing ads, and realize actively searching for a solution to a problem, it has to be about a problem and not a technology. It has to be about a problem and not features. What people love to lead with is features. What you really say is, well, go one level deeper. Why do they care about the features? Well, if I have that feature, you'll be able to do what's 80% of your day, 30% faster. Focus on that. And then the features come later. Because all the reason you're doing the ad, so let me give you an example. This is a company called Sustainator that was in our summer program in my senior project class last year. they wanted to be able to, in places like Denver in the winter, to have fresh strawberries. Because what happens is the shelf life in strawberries is horrible. If you have to ship it from Santa Maria to Denver, by the time it gets there, its shelf life is really short. But guess what? They didn't know in one level deeper. Is it because you really wanted to buy local? Or because you wanted it to last longer? You see how different your whole positioning could be? They didn't know. So for their pain point, which is they already know it's either going to be Maggie, and who is the other one? Justin. Maggie and Justin are going to see half the time, assuming this is the pain point. I want local for strawberries, but even when it's snowing outside. Or I want my strawberries to last, even in the middle of winter. So that's your next step, but it's pain points. It's not feature points. And you can see down below, you're assuming it's local is the key and the other one is shelf life. And you can see everyone has opinions on that, but I don't want opinions. I want people in Denver to be clicking. And then you go, oh my gosh, I'm shocked that this got 3 times the click as that. Every time you do a digital marketing campaign, the goal is getting shot. That means you're learning. That means you're learning. Okay, so we're talking about A/B for the person, A/B for pain point. So realize when you're doing your ad, the whole reason you run the ad is they click that button. So part of what you're doing when you're designing your ad is, how do I word this button? Maybe learn more is one way, it's pretty passive. It could be 25 slots left for our beta. You've got to keep iterating because sometimes when you see an ad, if it's not urgent and important, you won't do anything. So sometimes you might realize, oh, I know it's local, but the next round of A/B tests, all you do is the exact same ad and you change how you word the action point. Or you make this with red behind it instead of white. You don't know yet, but realize you don't have to pay until they click. So you can learn a lot for $10.
And you can even move the location of that button, right?
All that. Or zoom in more on the individuals. What I'm saying is when you have data, you realize, wow, I just doubled the click rate by zooming in. I wonder what would happen if I made it even bigger. Oh, it started going backwards. That's what I want to teach you. You're constantly, it's like someone who's recording on a big mixer panel and musician all those knobs. This simple little ad here has like 100 knobs. And some of them are first order, some of them are second order, and some are third. You don't know yet. So that's the pain point. And then when they click it, raise your hand if you've ever heard of a squeeze page or a landing page. That's where they go to. What that is, a squeeze page or a landing page, it's a single page website you've probably gone to before. Sometimes they're all lit on the screen, which is called above the fold. Sometimes you have to keep scrolling, but as you scroll, there's always a red call to action. So really what I'm going to teach you is the first step is get them on the pain point. You didn't talk about how yet. You talked about the problem. But you want them to feel like, wow, they might actually have a solution to my problem. The mistake people make is they try to go on what they're going to do about it to get you local. It's too soon. What you first want is them to be able to go to a bigger amount of territory, which is the landing page for you to get them excited about your solution. This is pain point. It is not pain reliever. The next step is pain reliever. So now you're starting to see the control, revolutionized growth, hydroponic, 5 times more berries, 90% less water. You're starting to see how you're going to do local. And with this, if you don't get a lot of clicks, the next set of ads could point to a landing page that's at 10 times. And if going between 5x and 10x didn't change This is where you get their email. The key for landing pages, if you don't get their email, you don't have anything. The most frustrating thing is you say, I got 1,000 clicks on my ad and I don't know a single person typed any of those 1,000 clicks. So that's why squeeze pages often say, download this PDF, be one of the first 10 and I'll give you 25% off. It's just some reason that you will click this and get email address. But you see, the way the landing page works, if this is what you could see on your monitor, and you start scrolling, there's more and more. You can use things like Google Tag Manager and know they hit the 4th call to action, that 90% of the time the people, when they do click, scroll all the way down to the 4th page. Huge learning, because there's something you said on the 4th page forgot. But you're doing like CSI. You're just figuring out, for my target persona, what pain point gets them to say, I hope you give me a solution because you're tempting me. And then when they see that, the biggest mistake I see here is it doesn't look fully baked. It's like, yeah, right. So for a lot of our student teams, we have to really work on the graphics. We have to really make it look, I'm a real company. I'm not just throwing something together. I'm not using stock photos. But you can see, so one of their pain relievers goes deeper now about hydroponics, some of the benefits of doing it. And this other one is bringing local back to the table. Greenhouses in your neighborhood, only a few miles away from you, you can be picking. But you see, they're different feelings. I love the wording, try local now. But it's like, and what got this started, she lived in Boulder, and she said when she moved to California, she finally knew what strawberries taste like. She had no idea living there how good strawberries can be. But are you getting what I'm saying about, here's what other thing that I learned. Getting people to click on this and your ad is much easier than getting people to give you their email. Because they don't know you. And so when I see people getting great click rates from their landing page, I go, you're onto something. Because people who don't know you are trusting you already. Because it's really a matter of trust. So here really is the money slide of what I'm saying. So remember I said you have 2 personas. For each persona, you're going to try 2 different versions of the pain point and 2 versions of the pain reliever. It might be pain reliever A you use on multiple spots, but you're always saying, like for example, on this first one, it might be you get 1% click rate for this and 3% click rate for this. But one of your pain relievers, 20% of the people give you your email. When you multiply 0.3% times 0.2, that might be your by far optimal solution. Because what you're finding is that path is working great. Now that you know that path, because you've got a good click rate for this, but you've got a huge amount of people from your lead page. Now, the next time you run this whole cycle, what am I going to do different to be even better for my ad, knowing which ad worked well, and do even better for my landing page? But does it make sense what I'm saying? It's just percentage. You're just multiplying percentages together. The other thing you might find that's interesting is you might realize these 2 both were about 1% per click rate. This one, Facebook only charged me 1/10 the amount of the other one. So you're going to pick the lower one. Because it's not just click rate, it's also what do they charge. The easiest way to think what click rate, how click rate's calculated, how many other people are trying to reach the same person as you? That's really what it is, because it's all algorithms. If you're trying to reach someone that people with deep pockets are already also trying to reach, your ads will be expensive. So if you want to get your click costs down, start thinking of, I'm going to go more narrow, that the big boys aren't going to go after. Like one of the teams in our class is focused on people who graduated from Cal Poly, work in other cities, and are looking for ways that they can meet other people now that they've moved away. That demographic has a lot of big advertising trying to talk to them. They're new in a city and they just got a degree from Cal Poly and they have money. So just think about that. It's an optimization problem, but that's what you do. And now I get to talk more detail about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Google, because I know there's a couple of Google things. First thing I wanted to highlight on Facebook. With Facebook, you go to where your early adopter hangs out. A, and B, you tell Facebook way too many details about your early adopter, and only those people see your ad. But here's the crazy thing. For example, if you know your ideal persona goes to one of these three websites, and there's company Facebook pages, you can have it say, I want people who are likely to be a like on that Facebook page. With that one thing of telling Facebook, you can run your ads. Because it knows, like someone who likes Volvo cars. I'll give you an example. One of the teams here years ago wanted to do the world's safest first bike for a child. They wanted to be the Volvo of bicycles. So I showed them, and they wanted to do it just in Orange County. I showed them how to run their ad for people a certain age that have kids that are 2 to 3 years old, that the parents make this amount of money, and that they like the Volvo website. And those are the only people who saw the ad. But think how much more targeted it is, because if you like Volvo cars, you could probably emphasize Volvo word a lot for these same people. But when you're testing, be narrow. We're always telling the entrepreneurs, don't go so wide, go narrow to a group that loves you, and then start going broader. But don't go broad until you have a group that loves you. So that's the key with Facebook. From a demographics, Facebook users are usually older. Instagram is younger, but when you set your ad up, Facebook and Instagram, it's identical. Google ads. Here's the difference on Google.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, please.
So, as you were saying, I can click, so I do both Facebook and Instagram, but if the demos are different. It becomes a
I
little-
would do 2 different campaigns.
Right, that's your A/B kind of test.
I would do one campaign that's just Facebook and one campaign just Instagram. Yeah, so when you do A/B, it can be complicated to do it from the same campaign. Just do 2 campaigns. Because it might be your A for your A/B test is done Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other one is done Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then you alternate which ones have influenced the Saturday, because you still don't know if Saturday is the best time for your ads, but just start learning. You've got to have a spreadsheet to keep track of this. And the way to do it is, what are the 3 things that surprise me the most about my ads? And just keep a log. It's like a journal. But you want to be surprised. So with Google, the difference with Google, and the reason the vast majority of Google loses money. This makes so much money, it funds like 80% of Google. That's why so much Google stuff is free. It's this. So Google gets you at the moment of truth. You just typed in strawberries in Denver. I know you want strawberries in dinner. You just typed it. So if you did a Google ad, you could literally do an ad that shows up. If you're willing to pay enough, someone just typed strawberries in Denver, and you know that you're only running the ad during the winter, you got it. But when I teach you more about stuff like SEMrush, you might find only 3 people per year type that ad. So with Google, it's complicated because you have to know what they typed, the exact keywords they typed. And then you have to look at what the click cost for those are. It's more complicated, but it could be more lucrative because you're getting the early adopter by definition, because you wouldn't do those keywords unless you thought your early adopter that you wish. It's another way to look at Google Ads. If you had a website, what are the 10 Google searches that you think most likely would give your ideal customer to your website? Those are the ones you want to do Google Ads on. But you have to run this other tool to really know, oh, well, for example, you could use SEM, which I'll show you. You said strawberries in Denver, super low clicks. But if you said fresh strawberries year round, 10 times the number of clicks. Then you realize, well, I'm going to do it for fresh strawberries year round because lots more people are clicking. It's just complicated. But Google likes it that way. When you can charge someone something a lot for something complicated, they're going to make rookie mistakes constantly. And that's lucrative for them. So Facebook and Instagram are really, you're going to where they hang out. It's not the moment of truth. Google Ads, it's the moment of truth. But you better know exact keywords that you care about. The third one is LinkedIn ads. If any of you are trying to sell to businesses and not consumers, LinkedIn is what you want to do. Because with LinkedIn, I have something called LinkedIn Recruiter that I pay like $150 a month. I can do scary searches within all of LinkedIn. I want Cal Poly grads that are senior level, that have been at the company for at least 7 years, that have this and this and this, and then it gives me those names. So if you're doing LinkedIn ads, you can do the same stuff, that only that crazy combination of details sees the ad. So it's no harder to use than Facebook and Instagram. It's still not the moment of truth, but Facebook and Instagram are kind of like a shotgun blast. The LinkedIn is like a rifle shot, because you can go type the titles. Facebook really doesn't know your job title.
What was the name of that platform? LinkedIn Recruiter?
Yeah, LinkedIn Recruiter and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Here's the beauty if you want to look at that. You can do it for like a month. But with that, you will now know the 10 people in LinkedIn who most likely will love my idea that you want to talk to. Because if you just use LinkedIn, you wouldn't know how to find them. Because when you do the normal LinkedIn search, like some of these crazy things, like year of graduation. If I want to look at Cal Poly grads who graduated when I did here, I can do a 3-year range that are in the Bay Area, that are senior level in computer science, and this and that, and then the name show up. But that doesn't scale. That lets you do early work to get conversations going. The reason I'm teaching you ads is that scale. Because once you understand this engine, the amount of revenue you have coming in from the people should always be higher. Well, I should say this. But raise your hand if you've heard of lifetime value. You know what that is? Lifetime value is, if I get a client, on average, what's that client worth for me over the years? The worst businesses have a single transaction with a client, so the lifetime value is the same as the first transaction. The best businesses that investors like is your lifetime value is high, because they'll buy from you 4 times a year forever. So when that's the case, I worked for HP for 25 years. We bought this company called Snapfish, which is like Butterfly. They knew the lifetime value for someone who joined Snapfish was high. We're going to give away a huge amount of free photos initially, just to get them in, because they knew, even though I gave them a whole bunch of free photos back when people would pay for photos and not to keep them digitally, they knew that 80% of the time I wasted money, but the 20% I get longer term, it makes up for the other 80%. Always think about when I run an ad, what does success mean? Success doesn't have to just mean I just got this person, I just got clients for $1 each, and I make $1 for my product, so it's break even. If you're going to be able to sell multiple things for that person, you should be willing to pay a lot more than $1 to get that person. Does that make sense when I say that? But you better be smart about continuing engaging with that person. So LinkedIn goes deeper. You're going to like now, because now I'm going to show you the links where you can learn more. I'm just teasing you. So this first one, 5 steps to create an Facebook ad for your page. The next part, there's a demo, there's a click here that you can see a Google Sheet that I set up that shows how scary all the levels of detail that Facebook can do for focusing. Look at this. This is crazy. You can say, I want meditation people who also love music and like pet products and are expatriates in another country, are recently broke up and make this amount of money. But imagine how important it is. You better know your persona. So I'll give you an example. When a mistake someone made in one of our classes tied to digital ads that turned out being wonderful. What it did is they were initially going to focus just on the US. And they didn't add the US portion. But when they ran the ad, there was this one region that had super high click rate. It was in Hong Kong. Because in Hong Kong, their competitor doesn't exist. But it was by mistake that they didn't block out Hong Kong. You want those ahas, whether they're great news or horrible news. Just be happy you got news, because news needs learning. So what happens is Apple is constantly pulling back the amount of data that Facebook or Meta can get. That's why Meta's stock price is going down also. So this list keeps shortening just because they can't do all those things they used to do. But when you go to set your ad up, you're going to see this was like one infographic that went into detail on all of it. But I like it when it's graphical. But when you set your ad up, you're going to see all these same categories. But that's why my first slide was the persona. You've got to know who your ideal person is, because I can show you how only that person sees your ad. And only if they click do you have to pay. So for Google Ads, SEMrush is one of the tools. SpyFu is cheaper. It does the same basic thing, but that's the tool you can go to when you say, okay, I'll make up an example. For the Madonna Inn, what's the #1 keyword that sends people to the Madonna Inn? And when you use it, they'll also say, oh, look at the 30% coming from Germany. I didn't know that, but it shows you all that. I saw your hand up.
I was gonna say cake. Or Madonna.
Yeah, so the pink cake you can see, but the other thing you can see is if Madonna Inn wanted more people to come from pink cake, is Madonna Inn running any ads for pink cake, or is it all just organic search? And you can see.
You don't need run ads. You seen the lines there lately?
Yeah.
The bakery's ridiculous.
But when you see how much Madonna Inn clients are from Europe, it's really high. And it's lucrative. But you can reverse engineer almost any website, what traffic's going there, and where were they willing to do paid ads. But the most important thing is what were the keywords they were willing to do paid ads on. Because you'll learn a huge amount from that, because what it's saying, if they use that same keyword month over month for paid ads, it works.
That's what Spike does, it gives you the keywords they're using.
And SEMrush.
And Spike Food is what I know.
And so that's why I put it.
Yeah.
There's no free account there, but the company that I had, I still have the API access, so I know that one well. This just goes in detail. If I were you, I would not start with Google Ads. It's hard. You really have to say, I want to dig in. Like if people want to learn search engine optimization, there's this website called Moz, and I have them read the overview for SEO. It's like 60 pages. For you to learn Instagram ads, it's going to be a couple hours. Right there. And LinkedIn ads. This is a really good one because it teaches you step by step how to do it. LinkedIn ads can either be text only ads that are really cheap or graphic ads. But you just want to learn. When we do, let me go. When we do this in our class, we usually give our students, what's nice is one of our benefactors for our class is funding their digital marketing research. So they can actually spend real money. You really learn about digital marketing when you spend money, not just read about it. But what we'll do is we'll say, okay, I'm going to give you $15 to optimize that path. And it's surprising, with $15 spent, you can learn a lot. And often what happens is early, they're getting some clicks here, they're getting no clicks there. And for the some they get, nothing happens there. And then they get better and better at this, and then they finally get action there. But it could be 4 or 5 iterations. But when I teach people about entrepreneurship, one of the things I really emphasize, it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it. The more you can learn something that everyone says that's too complicated, like if the two of you are really willing to go deep in Google Ads, that's awesome. Because you're competing against people who are. And that's scary because they're going to be, well, I know there's people who are using ChatGPT to figure out what your ad wording should be, where you should run your ad. Because if I can explain it to you, ChatGPT could have pulled in 15,000 articles tied to it to do the same thing. But what's interesting with ChatGPT, you can have it do blog posts for you. If Google knows that you're using non-human entered content, they'll hammer the website because you're trying to fool Google. And so that'll be the trade-off, that when people are trying to do things that Google wants to be done by a human, and Google, I remember,
Unless you're paying for an ad on Google to try to get to that website.
that's interesting. Google from antitrust can't do that. They can't do anything that they're motivating through their, you paying money to Google on your search engine rank. They got to make them separate. Because your search engine should be, Google wants the search engine ranking to be accurate, or you won't use Google, but they move you so slowly up the search engine ranking, you have to use ads early in the process to get any traction. Okay, let me go back, and then I'm just going to go for each of you kind of what you're, so I've talked about this, that I have slides on, if you want to learn more on LinkedIn ads. Let me talk more about the landing pages of why these apps are so important. I like lead pages as a company to do it. So unlike going to Wix, lead pages has the templates of the highest converting landing pages they've ever seen. And then you swap the graphic out and you swap the text out and you use the highest converting landing page. But what's nice is you don't know what you don't know about how to set up a landing page. There's all this science of what shade of red works best for the call to action. Should you have rounded corners on your platform? How big should it be? How high up should it be? If it's a multiple page landing page, what should you do on the second page? What should you do on the third? So that's what I like about lead pages. Its only purpose in life is landing pages, but you can also run your campaigns for Facebook and Instagram from it. Yes.
Is lead pages, are they themes that we put in under our own URL and our website, or how does it?
Great question. So here's the way to think of it. You've got three things. You've got pain point. That's an ad. And then you have pain reliever. That's a landing page. And then you have your site, which is everything else.
Right, okay.
Because your call to action on the landing page, instead of asking for your email, here's what I would do. I would get their email and then send them to your page.
Sure.
Last thing you want to do is I got them right there and I sent them to my URL, but I don't know who they are. But these landing pages are one-page websites, but their only purpose is maximize the percentage of people who take my call to action. And Google's great for this. You can do Google image searches, great 10 best landing pages, and you'll just get so many ideas. Because if you do it yourself, you're going to be horrible at it. Because you don't know. Here's what's crazy about this. Humans are not predictable. They don't do what you think they're going to do. What you want is someone who's done it enough that I can't explain why, but this crazy ad's twice as high as this. And we all have theories on one. And then I'll say, well, I just want the crazy ad that works. But even still, if you take your template, you're going to be iterating on the photo. You're going to be iterating in how many words. My advice for you on words on your ad, very few. If the graphic alone can get your early adopter, who's actively seeking for a solution, you're 90% there. They didn't even care about the words. You say, oh, that's me. That's what you want. And so if I go back to here, imagine I didn't show you anything else. You learned a pretty good amount of what they're doing, right? Something to do with strawberries in the winter. And then really all they had to, and they knew what this is, but they didn't know it was tied to winter. This is a problem we all have. But you just have it worse in places where the shipping time was long. That's a weaker thing because you're not really sure that I've got rotten strawberries. I'm actively searching for a solution for rotten strawberries. This one is, I want strawberries and I can't get them. But you see, it's graphics. Bold, not so bold. They iterated a lot on this. But to some degree, what people do is they first look interesting, and then they'll say, my first look at it, I'm going to give you 2 seconds. And in 2 seconds, your image got it. And I'm going to give you 2 more seconds. Local. Okay, I think I know what this is. I wonder what this is. Find in stores near you. Oh, it's going to actually be available. Well, when's it going to be available? So that action item there could say, find stores near you, as opposed to learn more. Learn more sounds like it's still a concept. But you see how important it is to make it. I wish I've been looking for these. That's weak. And so, like I said, one of your campaigns, this and this are identical, but you tweaked one thing. And then for here, you can start initially with just a landing page that's above the fold. But again, when I said I go to the landing page, I'm going to give you 2 seconds when I get at your landing page. Did you get me? If you go to the landing page, it's paragraphs of text, you just lost me. So one of the things you can do you know what Google Analytics is? With lead pages, you can turn on Google Analytics. So you can know the average person who comes to my lead page that I paid to get them there leaves in 2 seconds. Then you know I blew it. And probably the way you blew it is you're still talking about a problem and you're not enticing them with the solution. Because the reason they click the ad is to say, I have that problem. And very quickly you have to intrigue them to want to invest 2 seconds, and then 5 seconds, and then 10 seconds to understand more on the solution. Yes.
I just remember the issue I ran into with Facebook ads was driving people to another Facebook page that you own before you send them to the website. Seemed to be like they were trying to lead you down that path first, and is that still required in?
No, you can go, when you set up your Facebook ad, you have like 10 goals for it. One of it is just traffic to a URL. And the URL would be a lead page.
So you won't necessarily see better results if you drive them to like your page first.
No, what you really want is they have not given you any private information.
Right. So it doesn't do anything for you.
You just imagine they're waiting, they're hoping from your ad that you actually do what you said you might be able to do. But when they land on your landing page, they better say, wow, you are. Or, wow, this is interesting. The other thing on your landing, you don't tell them all the details. You said, wouldn't it be great if, and you list like 4 things. Click here to see the details.
Well, plus your competitor can advertise on your Facebook page. So you're really just.
It's interesting, Facebook limits. If you just say like one website, you can't go straight to that one. They force you to go broader, a larger set of websites so that it's not just one. Here's how crazy this is also. You can also, with LinkedIn and Facebook, upload email addresses. And if the list is over like 200, only people with those emails that are associated either with a Facebook or a LinkedIn account will see the ad. So if you have email lists, it's like customized audience. But it used to do, you could give it like 10, and then only those 10 see it, and that's too scary. They forced it to be a bigger list. But if you have lists, like
200 or more, 200 or less.
they want the list to be very long. Okay. So for example, if in your business, you have people who used to be great clients and have done nothing for 3 years, and you got 1,000 names, you'd be perfect for doing a targeted, because your whole messaging, we want you back.
Yeah.
Look what we have now.
That's exactly my situation. I just pulled up like 2,000 email addresses from like 2015.
Yeah, perfect.
It's like I haven't touched.
So just realize if they're work email addresses, your Facebook account probably isn't tied to it, but your LinkedIn might be.
Awesome. And that's Facebook, and what's the other?
Facebook and Instagram. Instagram, it's a younger demographic. Instagram is much more visual, and Facebook is a lot of text. But what's interesting on Facebook, people like to talk on Facebook, people like to see on Instagram. So I talked a lot at you. Any questions from the group out there? I want to just answer your questions about your needs now for the next 10 minutes. Like, what do you wish? I kind of talked you out of Google, but if you want to do it, go for it. Anything I can answer for you?
Utilizing, so if we start a campaign and we put a bunch of money into it, how do we know we're getting the best bang for our buck on the targeted audience?
Good question. So the first thing that I have to tell the class is they'll say, oh, I only got 2% click. And I have to say, well, you're actually better. So you have to know what good is, and Google's your friend. What I would say is, if you ran your campaign, what does your most valuable customer look like? Like, would it be someone who goes to your website and spends 2 minutes on your website versus 2 seconds on your website? You can track those in campaigns that when I use this keyword, I get people who really like what we're doing, even if they haven't bought yet, The best way to know you're going the right direction is how long they spent on your website. Okay, because they're caring. And it might be they didn't buy yet because most people don't buy until about 5 times they saw what you got. But that's what I would say is if you have your email and you also know they're not a looky-loo, they spend 2 minutes on your site, your email campaign to that person should be different. Because you know their behavior. Because you know who it is. But so many people run campaigns. They have 100 people go to the website. They don't know who the 100 are. They didn't get any clicks, and they didn't know, well, who were those 20 people who spent all that time but didn't buy? Those are the ones you want. Well, what else could we have done? Okay.
I've heard quiz marketing is a really effective way now, better than even like a free download. So you got to take a little quiz in order to see the results.
Quiz marketing is great for you. So the idea is in your landing page, and you can do plugins to do this. 2 quick questions, and then you answer it. So click here to actually get how you fit versus everyone else. But you know what it is? I like to have a little thing. No one gets married on the first date. It's a courtship, and the courtship's happening through quizzes, which are fun. And then it might be, if it's a multi-page landing, as you scroll down, here's 3 more questions. And it might not be until they answered 6 questions, and they go, now I really want to know because I got 6 questions.
Well, and these raising a good point that I actually have a problem with my clients. So they spend, say, $300 on the first month of campaigns, and they look at their sales and they're like, I made like $100 off of those $300, and they're pissed off and like, just cancel it. But you really can't expect that you're going to get 100% return on investment right after that.
No, you can't. So what I would do is show with your own data,
Analytics, yeah.
our analytics, our typical customer gets a 30% ROI the first month, and then a 50%, and by month 4 it's breaking. Because we do that with startups all the time. When we pitch startups, they lose money initially. The investors want to know is, well, when do you turn the corner? That's all you're saying is when are you going to turn the corner? Because I do biz dev for the tech boot camp for employers. I know that I'm shooting for a couple percent. The 98% is that. So I know it's a numbers game, but in my mind, I know 2% is okay. But if you didn't know that, you want to quit to say, I'm getting ghost, and they're not mean, they just ghost you. But if you knew 2% and I got 4, great, I got twice. But it's because they don't know. And they think, but guess what? If it was that easy, everyone would do it because everyone would get what they wanted in 1 month. But that's why there's so much snake oil for people doing this, because they will claim they can do it in 1 month. And it's just not the way humans are. That's why I like email marketing, especially if they know what your behaviors are, because they opt in. It's permission marketing. There's this guy called Seth Godin who has this great book from 30 years ago on permission marketing. It's just every step of the time someone raises their hand, okay, but it's not until like the 4th time they raise their hand are they saying okay with what the rookie tried to get the first time they asked. It's a courtship. And it is multiple touch points. Another way when you do email marketing campaigns, there's this book, Jab, 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 Left Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. It's like your email marketing campaigns. You give, then you ask. Then you give, and then you ask. The rookies ask. And everyone unsubscribes. The relationship comes from you gave them stuff they thought you were going to have to pay for. The ones who are the most successful are giving away stuff at first because they have something called reciprocity. If I give you something, subliminally, they know I owe you something in return because you just gave me something super valuable. And you're much more likely, if I consistently give, like I'm learning to play guitar better. There's a lot of online guitar stuff on YouTube. They give away a lot, but it's totally unstructured. It's random. But if you do that enough, you're much more likely to pay for the $50 course. No one will pay the $50 course up front. They got something for free for a while, but they realized, and then you have to make your value proposition of why you need to pay to get all these things that you can't get just from the little point solution. Other questions? You've been really engaged. What can I help you with?
I'm actually a consultant for the SBDC, so it's just.
Anything your clients wish they knew more about?
Everyone wants to know everything about social media and they hate it, so. It's one of those, and I, pass them on to other consultants that are much more experienced, but I'm just learning, so it's very interesting.
So the biggest thing I would say on social media, be careful about ChatGPT. Because you can tell ChatGPT, there's things called prompts. When you tell ChatGPT details, you can say, I work for a personal injury attorney. I want 5 blog posts. I want them to be this long. I want you to emphasize blah, 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 blah. And then it does it. But if Google knows that it wasn't the human that does it, they literally can block your website. They did that actually the BMW once. They were violating terms and the BMW website you typed, it wasn't there. Because you have to have some bite, not just all bark. Other questions? Can I answer any for you?
Where would I go for a simple 1, 2, 3, how to set up an Instagram ad?
I can show you that. Go to that. I just realized when it says Facebook, it also says Instagram. The other thing, when you, within YouTube, say, setting up an Instagram ad for beginners, look for the ones that have by far the most views. And that's what I found, it's the best correlation of what's useful, because it's the wisdom of the crowds. But within YouTube, you do Google searches for keywords, but use the word beginner, because you're not alone. But I picked this one. It's a good one. Yes.
Does it get into the setting up of the business manager?
Another searching YouTube. I always start with YouTube searches. Yes.
You kind of glossed over the criteria in the very beginning of the personas. You were talking about age, demographics. Like, what are you have to collect all this information before you even sit down and run an ad. What are like the key criteria you need to know or start to gather for A/B testing?
Excellent. And then I think I only have like 1 more minute.
Half an hour, actually.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
That's great. I can talk for half hour easy. So here's what I would say. You have a website. Tell me 2 different, completely different ideal customers. And I'm going to say, and what else? And what else? And what else? And it could be from your experience, my 2 best customers, your version of Justin, and your version of Maggie, and I wish I had 50 more like those 2. Tell me more about them.
Okay, so really dive into
it. You have an established business, which makes it a lot easier. When you just have an idea, when you're a startup, what we do is there's a great book that you might want to look at for startups called Running Lean. It teaches you step by step the process that we teach at Cal Poly on how to get your business plan on 1 piece of paper. It's called a business model canvas. But when you look at the book Running Lean, it teaches you how to do customer discovery. And because I have the time, I'll talk more about what that is. So what customer discovery is once you think you know your ideal persona, you contact them. But when you talk with them, you just listen about their pain points. They don't even know your solution. If they understood from your first conversation with them what your solution is, you failed. You're just listening on problems where they just say, because when you reach out to them, we're looking at this space of people who have this and this kind of problem. And we think you might. And if they say yes or no, if they say yes, when you talk to them, there's this book called The Mom Test. And the idea on the mom test is really interesting. It's how to ask questions such that your own mom will say that's a stupid idea. Because most entrepreneurs, when they do their research, they want to sell. It's got to be listening. And when you listen, and it goes back to your earlier point about your persona. We have our senior project students do that 100 times. You're going to start seeing trends, and we teach them ways to put on post-it notes your interviews, and we do this analysis without talking. They group it, and then start thinking, I know who it is now. I talked to enough people. I can convert these 100 data points into it's this person. It is not this person. It is not this person. But what we do our first quarter of a 3-quarter long class, it's a fun class. It's 17 business majors and 25 engineers. And it is their senior project for a mechanical engineer or a business major or computer science. The first quarter, we do not let them create anything. It's show us a problem we're solving and show us the data. They can only listen. But imagine if a third of your effort is understanding the problem. Implementing it's a lot easier. What entrepreneurs often do, I know the problem, I'm going to start having to. So as an entrepreneur, what I'm showing you here is before you've created your solution, I want your ads to pretend you have. And see what happens. There's a guy here in town that has a homeschool science called Supercharged Science. He's amazing. Al Lipper's his name. He's a consultant in the SBDC here. He's big on email marketing. He's a genius. But what Al does is if he's thinking about new homeschool modules, he actually puts it up as a new product, see who's willing to pay for it, collects the money, but if he doesn't get a certain amount by a certain date, he refunds all the money before he's created it. Brilliant. Most people don't do that. Most people have this big sunk cost in what they created, and then they sell it at once. He doesn't even create it until he's convinced. And the best way to know you're convinced is they didn't just sign up on your interest list. They gave you money. But it's smart. But Al's constantly growing his email list. Al also has something for email automation that's really cool. There's email automation companies out there that if you show a video, it'll actually know. When Jane Doe came to my site, she only watched the first 2 minutes of this video, and then she went to this. You can actually automate. If someone comes to the site and only gets this far in the video and goes here, then do this. That's when you really have email on. Because it's really, what would a human do if I said, what do you recommend we do for someone who only watched a little bit of the video and then only went to this about after 2 minutes? Another thing when you get serious is it scales. So learning on your ideas. So when I talk to entrepreneurs, one of their hesitations is, I don't want to put an ad that I don't know I can actually do. And I said, you guys, put best case. And if people don't click on your best case solution, and you know how to do these ads, don't you want to know that? That's something that overstates what you might not ever be able to do, because you're not taking money yet. But like in this case, actually, we'll go down one more page. If they actually made in bigger numbers that they didn't really know they could do, and they did different versions of, but they can do the sensitivity of how much better do I need the number of berries? How much better shelf life do I need? You're just testing.
So they don't make you back up your claims that you're making on the ads?
No.
That is a big problem. That's why everyone's getting scammed.
Well, see how this worded it? Growing methods produce. What you're doing is you're testing interest. If we could do this, You don't want to say, our product XYZ gives you.
Okay, make it broad enough.
Make it broad because has a problem, knows they have them, actively seeking a solution. And then the next level is, well, if I gave you 3 solutions, are you confident they'll pick solution 2? And what are they willing to pay for it? Right? What most people do is they found one, but of the 3, it's the worst of the 3 because they didn't spend the time to really map it out.
It's like supplements use the word may.
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
We read what we want to read, our brains don't even like, we see what we think we want.
And that's why graphics are so important. When someone looks at this on sustained growth, they're really going to look here and they're going to read that. And that's how they're deciding for the first 2 seconds, you got it. This is only after this got them, so I'm going to spend a few more seconds.
So creatively funding these, do you have any ideas of things that work in the past? So the first thing I'm thinking is like you find another organization that stands to benefit, you can help provide like awareness of their brand or like a nonprofit, but does this get really pricey really fast?
It can. So here's what I would do. If you use SpyFu or SEMrush, and you have a targeted client, here's what I would do. I would do your own ads, type what that nonprofit does, and say, this is what I got for click rate. This is what I got. How are you doing? Because if they're hiring someone to do it, and you can show AB, oh, that's interesting. My cost to click to get them to the United Way website was only 37 cents. What are you paying? Because you literally are going to be able to say with my method is, here's the average acquisition cost to get someone to your URL. But if you think, when you look at SEMrush, that nonprofit doesn't know what they're doing, which they often don't just tell them you can, because they get that 1,000 times a day. Spend the $50 and say, I know you probably won't believe it, so I did it myself. What do you think?
Here's the data.
Because then it's a logical conversation, not an emotion. Because when I was working with lawyers on their marketing, what they hated was everything that digital marketing agencies telling me is free. I don't speak free. So I don't know what they're saying, but I also know it's very, very important to me. What I would do if I were you, I would make it so simple that I'm confident enough that I did my own. This is what and let me show you what I did. Let me show you how I found your persona. Let me show you what's best that you show them. And I did 3 iterations. Look how much better I am after the 3rd spend of $15 versus the first. Because you're really just building, wow, no one's ever been willing to stick their neck out, do the work to show you care. I'm having for our boot camps, one of our types of boot camp is data analytics. And so we're having our data analytics grads do something really cool with Tableau, which is a tool for data analytics tied to the company. It's like, I'm applying for your job. Let me show you the kind of things that I could do for Bloomberg if I work for them. As opposed to my resume says, I can do everything. And I got 1,000 applicants. Just assume they had 1,000 people that they can't make sense out of, and you're coming from left field. An example of that. The house we bought had super steep backyards. So we knew we were going to have to terrace it. We didn't know who to hire. We found someone who, on her 3rd try, she actually found someone good. When we went out to get landscape companies, all but one landscape company wanted like $1,000 for the design before we even know if we want to pick them. The guy we picked, he was free. He sat on a ridge with his son, looking at the view. What would I do from here? What would I do from here? We picked him. He was the best, but he stuck his neck out because he wanted to.
Because he knew he could win too.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, he knew he could. Well, he wasn't sure if he could win because he was expensive, but he had a novel approach. Everyone else says, we don't do designs for free. He said, well, I vote for this. And it worked, and all his work is word of mouth. He didn't advertise at all, because everyone who hires him said, well, it's expensive, but he's the best. That's what you want them to say about you. You do not want to be a race to the bottom. Anytime you're in a race to the bottom, you can't pay your bills. Because there'll be some third party who's going to overclaim. There's a book on sales that I really like. It's called The Challenger Sale. It's a great book to read. The idea on the Challenger Sale is you position yourself that you know their business better than they do, and they're betting on you, not just your product. Because you're their trusted advisor. And when you do the sales process with the Challenger sale, you're not talking about your product until later. You're talking about your knowledge of their industry, what the pain points are, and they go, yeah, you understand. Everyone else is giving me a generic sales pitch. You actually know my business. How'd you know that? Can't tell you. But you see, it just, you have to stand out as
An expert in that niche.
even, yeah, because you spent the time to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to get random percent success. That's not what you want. But what you really have to do is you have to say what clients are worth me doing the concierge approach up front. But I'll tell you, once you get those clients, they'll open up 50 more. Because like my big focus when we were building, we have 22 university partners for our boot camps now. When we first started, we had none. So I first got Cal Poly, and then I got Caltech. That was a pain. But I knew once we had Caltech, it'll open up a lot more. But I think for people to build a business, you your benchmark client and you lead with that. Because a lot of the fly-by-night internet marketing have no benchmark client. They just churn clients.
Yeah, that was a fundamental issue I ran into with a coach where he's like, his business model was, well, every 6 months you're gonna have a new client. I'm like, not my model. I want to be with clients for years. Like, stop doing anything that you recommend because your model is completely different.
And that's why you want your unique value proposition is long-term clients because it works.
Somebody had asked what the name of the book was that you mentioned.
Great. It's called Running Lean. RUNNINGLEAN. And the author's name is Ash, and his last name is MAURA. So it's funny. I like the book enough that if people want me to mentor them and they're not tied to my class or things here with the Hothouse, I'll say, read that book. And when you can tell me your one-page business plan, I'll help you. 2% do. Because everyone wants it to be easy. It's not. But that's the difference of successful entrepreneurs is it's hard. I know it's hard, and I'm gonna win.
Good filtering for you.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is, but like Judy was saying for the SBDC, it's also helpful that we don't focus on people who aren't serious.
That's all about customer discovery. That's the key. And that, yeah, that's what I underestimated the time it takes to do that for a client. Like if they have no idea who their customer is, like their ideal reader in my case, it can take us a month to figure that out. And it's pain, it's just a lot of heavy lifting up front.
So here's what I would do if I were you also. I would say with what you do, there's really like 5 different personas. And then really quickly, you're going to snap to which of the 5 does this client have? And you don't even bring up the other ones. Okay. But you've kind of modeled the industry as a challenger. You say, we know the industry well enough. There's 5 personas, your persona 4, and here's why. The fact that you knew the 5 gives you more credibility.
That's actually a great idea. I can say there's 5 ideal readers for your book.
Yeah.
Here's.
Yeah. And here's, because you really want to, we need this guy. Because you don't want them to pick you just because of your product. You want them to pick you because we need them as someone I can work with to grow my business. Other questions? Yes.
I have two. One is budget. I've heard you say it's like $50.50. I'm just looking for range. I used to work in entertainment, so my perception of budget is completely different. So I used to work in like $9 million campaigns.
You had that meeting in here, weren't you, with when we had the incubator teams? Wow, you have an amazing background. Now it's clear who you are. I think the key thing is for $100, you should run. But if you did Google AdWords, you're going to spend $100 before you learn anything. But what I tried to emphasize, know your persona. Make sure that you're only paying for clicks. Let me give you an analogy. If you're a realtor, realtors hate doing open houses for a reason. Lots of open houses are your neighbors. They're looking for this. They rarely do the transaction, but the homeowners want them to have open houses. Because you're not getting your ideal persona. That's why open houses aren't good. You want to think the same thing of everything you're doing. Am I tuning my view of the ideal persona? And am I better understanding how many of those people are around the world like them? But the other thing I'd say, even if the number isn't huge, that's okay. Once you nail one, it's adjacent. Like what we did is we started with lawyers, and then dentists were very simple. And then you can go to chiropractors. And too often people try to do everything initially, and then you're too scattered. Just go narrow and nail it. And that's why people have to get outside funding initially, because it's rarely profitable up front. But angel investors bet on people. If you can say, when you're looking for money, and this is my process, I take an industry for readers, I map it out, and then I use the challenger sale to actually go and they bet on me, because what angel investors, they bet much more on the person than the idea. Because they know your idea is probably going to pivot 5 times. But they want the person who will thrive through all the pivots on your idea. That was one question. You had 2.
The other one is just about email marketing. Again, it's something I'm unclear when do you use that? Like for what strategy are you?
I would say you use email marketing wherever you can. Because no one gets married on the first date, and you want a relationship that you give, and ask. So, for example, what's your first name on the reader side? Brian. Brian. If Brian did give, Brian starts giving away some of the secret sauce. He starts saying, here's what I've learned. It's this, not this. So Brian from the Texas, yeah, now it clicked. French words. When you do email marketing, it's not transactional, it's relational. That's what people get wrong. It's relational, and you need to go a long time before it's transactional. But too often people think, I've got 100 names on my email list, and if three of them buy, I'm doing good. You're probably going to lose the other 97 that they're going to unsubscribe because you didn't build.
Or you get desperate. I just unsubscribed to a list that was on for like a year because they had this 24-hour promotion, and in that 24 hours, I must have sent 6 emails. Like, what are you spamming me for all of a sudden?
Just think, are they handling the relationship like you would be proud that your son or daughter did it that way? But I think a lot of millennials think email's dead. You cannot scale through social media conversations tied to relationships. You put in social media blast, but if all of us in this room right here are on social media, you see the same thing. I need to send Brian something different. I need to. Because I know where Brian is in his journey of working. That's the way you have to think.
If your avatar is a native outlaw, they're not gonna be on social media much anyway. They're gonna be looking at easy.
So my challenge with my job is a lot of recruiters in tech change companies a lot. So I have a huge amount of LinkedIn people, but they move all the time. And within LinkedIn, the email that they give is their personal email, and we know not to send work stuff to their personal email. So my challenge is to get them from the LinkedIn into email. Because the email they give you is usually the one that'll stick around. And think lifetime value.
It's hard to tell them. It's inexpensive.
It's free. It's free, and the other thing you always want to do when you make an offer, always think good, better, best. Most of the time, people pick the middle. But what I learned from Al, make your high end really high end, because a couple percent will take it. And make your low end low enough, and also say why you want that.
Even Apple does that with the iPhones. You notice there's always 3,
Always,
14.
but when you, but it's AD. You're constantly learning. What I want is everyone from here, a year from now, that feels like I actually am using this all the time. When I've learned how to do it, and I've learned how to explain to people what A/B testing is, when to use Facebook, when to use Google, when to use LinkedIn, why email is important, and why Google Analytics on behavior is important. But if you set a goal for yourself, for whatever you're doing type of digital ads, 3 months from now, I want to get 10 times the customers at half of what costs. Then you figure it out. Because you realize you have to do both. Don't want 10 times the customers with 30 times the budget. Any other questions for me? I don't want to hold you for too long. Anything else from the audience?
You didn't talk about YouTube ads. Is that part of Google? I mean, that seems to be a lot of ad spend.
You can do YouTube ads also. It's a similar challenge to do it. I would Google, should I do YouTube ads or Instagram? And then start reading. It's another one. What I've learned is if you do Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, right there. But if I tell you to learn 5 things, you're going to learn nothing yet.
Good stuff, Dan. Thank you.
Was it beautiful?